He has 5 kickers I'm going to bench this week. Heading into week 14, the first guy is Greg Zuerlein of the Dallas Cowboys. And this guy, I don't know what happened to him over the last few weeks. And last week versus the Baltimore Ravens, he missed 3 field goals. He's been struggling. And this guy, he lost me a game. I'm going to be honest. I was down a few points. And if he hits 2 or 3 of those field goals, I win the game and make the playoffs. But anyway, Greg the Leg, like I said, he missed 3 field goals. I know a few of them were from 50 plus, but I just can't trust it. I know he's got a good matchup versus Cincinnati, who gives up the 3rd most fantasy points to kickers. But after that performance versus Baltimore, this guy, his confidence is probably shattered. And now every field goal he's going to take an attempt, he's going to be shaky on, I believe. So Greg the Leg, he sees the bench this week. The second guy is Joey Sly of the Carolina Panthers. He's been on these bench lists a lot over the last few weeks, and this week he's got a good matchup versus the Denver Broncos, who give up the 2nd most fantasy points to kickers. But this guy, just like Zuerlein, he's a guy he's only had 2 double-digit fantasy games the whole season, is Joey Sly. And this week versus Denver, I could see him have a decent game, but he's a guy I can't trust. He's a guy who's been missing some extra points here and there. He's missing some field goal attempts as well. And in this game, I could see the Panthers punching the ball in the end zone, especially if Christian McCaffrey is back in. So Joey Sly, I'm not going to trust him. Maybe he'll do decent, but he's a guy I'll stay away from and put on the bench. The 3rd kicker I'm benching this week, Zane Gonzalez, another guy with kicking issues. He's a guy missing a lot of field goals now and extra points over the last 2 or 3 weeks. He started off the season well, but he's failed to reach double-digit fantasy points now since week 10. In week 11, he had 3 PATs made, so he only had 3 points. Week 12, a 43-yarder and 2 PATs made, and then last week, 4 extra points. So the opportunities haven't been there, and the ones he's had a chance on, he's been missing as well. So Zane Gonzalez, he's a guy I said to drop early in the week as well, and he's a guy I just can't trust or play at the kicker position right now. So bench him. The 4th kicker I'm benching this week's Brandon McManus of the Denver Broncos. I know he's got a big boot. I know he could kick long-range field goals, but he's another guy that he's been up and down, but that's got to do more with the team he's on and the offense. He hasn't reached double-digit fantasy points since week 9's McManus. Last week versus Kansas City in that ball game, he had a 52-yarder and a PAT, which saved his day. And this week he's got a matchup at Carolina. This game I could see him getting a few more attempts, but I still can't trust him in a playoff game, and many owners haven't anyway. He's only owned in 22% of leagues, so I'm just going to bench McManus. And the 5th and final kicker I'm benching this week's Robbie Gould of the San Francisco 49ers. Gould, he's only had 1 double-digit fantasy game the whole season, and last week he had an alright ball game versus Buffalo with 7 fantasy points, but this week he's got a tougher matchup versus the Washington football team that makes you earn every point. And they're very tough. Gold, I know it's an indoor game since they're playing at Arizona now for their home games in San Francisco, but I'm just not going to trust him. Like I said, he's only had 1 double-digit fantasy game since week 3, so Robbie Gould, stay away from him. I don't think he'll do much, and he's a guy I'm going to bench this week, and that's 5 kickers I'm benching here heading into week 14.